The first time I noticed the money was missing, it wasn't panic that hit me. It was confusion. A small knot in my stomach, the kind that whispers something is wrong before your mind is ready to admit it. $42,000. Not from our savings, but from the business account I'd built long before my husband, Noah, came into my life. Money I'd earned through late nights, endless emails, and clients who paid for results, not charm. It started with a simple alert from my bank. Large withdrawal flagged for verification. I was at the kitchen counter, coffee in hand, still in my robe, staring at the message like it was written in another language. $42,000 transferred to a personal account. Not mine. Not a vendor's. Just a name I didn't recognize, at least not right away. Her name was Lydia Hale. And once upon a time, she was Noah's ex. At first, I laughed out loud, the kind of laugh that sounds more like disbelief than humor. No one is that stupid, I told myself. My husband would never steal from me, not to send it to his ex of all people. But then I remembered how his phone had been face down lately, how his explanations for late nights had turned vague. Just work stuff. You know how clients get. Stop worrying, Ava. I wanted to believe him. For 2 years, I'd built that belief like a glass wall, clear, fragile, and one wrong word away from shattering. By noon, I'd called the bank. Yes, the representative said after verifying my identity, the funds were transferred online. The authorization came from your joint login. Our joint login. Meaning my password, my system, but accessed from his device. My heart sank into something between rage and nausea. Can you tell me where the funds went? I asked. She hesitated. To a personal checking account belonging to a Lydia Hale. That name again. The one he said was ancient history. The woman he'd described as a mistake in his 20s. At 6 p.m., Noah came home like nothing was wrong. He kissed my cheek, dropped his briefcase, opened the fridge. We out of tonic water? I just watched him, my hands steady even though my heart wasn't. No tonic water, I said. But maybe some questions. He frowned. Questions. Like why $42,000 disappeared from our business account. For the first time in months, Noah froze mid-motion. The color drained from his face so fast it was almost impressive. He blinked once, twice. What? You heard me. He tried to smile, the same lazy smile that used to melt me when we were dating. Babe, relax. It's probably just a transfer error. I'll check tomorrow. Already did. It went to Lydia Hale. The name hung in the air like smoke from a fire neither of us could pretend wasn't burning. His jaw tightened. That's not what you think. Then make me think something else. He opened his mouth, closed it. Again, pacing to buy time. She had an emergency, he said finally. Medical bills, something serious. I helped her out. With my company's money. Our money, he corrected automatically, but the words came out weak. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, calm, deadly calm. You stole from me, Noah. That's not helping someone. That's theft. He ran a hand through his hair. I was going to put it back. When? He looked at the floor. How long has this been going on? No answer. Just silence so thick it buzzed in my ears. When I finally spoke again, my voice surprised even me. You know what's worse than what you did? It's that you thought I'd never find out. That you thought I'd keep smiling and cooking dinner while you funded your ex's life with my hard work. Noah stepped forward. Ava, please, no. My voice cut through his like glass. Save your apologies for her. I'm done listening. He looked genuinely panicked now. You're overreacting. I laughed once. You stole $42,000 from your wife to impress your ex, and you think this is an overreaction? You should thank me for not calling the police. He opened his mouth to argue, but I raised a hand. You have 2 options. You fix this quietly, or I make it public. Every client, every investor, every person you try to impress will know exactly who you are. Noah's jaw clenched. You wouldn't. Try me. That night, I slept in the guest room, not because I couldn't stand to see him, but because I didn't want him to see me working. At midnight, my laptop glowed softly against the dark as I opened a new file titled The Dinner. If Noah wanted to play games with image and reputation, fine. But I'd play better. I'd invite him to a luxury dinner at the same five-star restaurant where he once took Lydia for their closure talk. The one I pretended not to know about. I'd invite her too. And everyone who mattered to him. His boss. His clients. Even his mother, who thought he could do no wrong. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't accuse. I'd let evidence do the talking. Bank transfers, emails, text threads, everything neatly organized, timed perfectly, delivered like the world's most polite execution. As I outlined my plan, I realized something strange. I wasn't sad anymore. Just focused. Sharp. Like a blade being honed. The next morning, Noah tried to act normal, asking if I wanted coffee. Sure, I said, not looking up from my screen. We should talk about dinner this weekend. Dinner? Yes. A thank you dinner. For all your hard work lately. He smiled cautiously. Really? Really? Bring your best suit. And make sure Lydia can make it too. He froze, mug halfway to his mouth. Why would she? I looked up, smiling for the first time since the truth came out. Because I invited her. By Thursday, every piece of the plan was in motion. Revenge doesn't need shouting. It needs choreography. Every message, every call, every polite smile was part of the performance. I wasn't the betrayed wife anymore. I was the director of a show that would end with applause, just not for him. The invitations went out Friday morning. I'd booked a private dining room at La Reverie, the kind of restaurant where the walls shimmer with quiet wealth and every glass of wine costs more than a week's groceries. I told Noah it was to celebrate the closing of a new contract, a professional dinner, casual, upscale, bring your best clients. I'd said it sweetly enough that his suspicions softened into ego. Who's coming? He asked that night while scrolling through his phone. Oh, just a few people from the office, I said. And Lydia? He froze for the briefest second, just enough for me to see the truth flicker behind his eyes. Lydia? Why would she? She helped with your old proposals, didn't she? It's only fair to include her. You always said she was brilliant. Noah's throat worked as he swallowed. Right. Of course. By Saturday, he'd convinced himself it was fine. His arrogance was always stronger than his guilt. He even joked while getting ready. You sure you can handle all my work people at once? I smiled into the mirror as I adjusted my earrings. Oh, I think I can handle everyone just fine. He didn't notice the second phone on my vanity, quietly recording. That day was a blur of preparation, but not the kind that shows on the surface. Beneath my calm face, every detail was timed like a clock. The seating chart that placed Lydia beside Noah, directly across from me. The USB drive waiting in the manager's office. The call scheduled for 8:15 sharp from the charity accountant who would confirm the missing funds in real time. Even the playlist was planned, elegant strings masking the tension that would soon fill the air. When we arrived at La Reverie, the maitre d' recognized me instantly. Mrs. Collins, your private room is ready. Noah looked proud. Mrs. Collins, sounds expensive. Worth every penny, I said. The room gleamed like a jewelry box, low lighting, crystal glasses, flowers arranged with the kind of precision I used to save for our anniversaries. Guests trickled in. His colleagues, his boss, a few investors, and, right on time, Lydia Hale. She looked exactly as I remembered from photos, polished, pretty, painfully self-satisfied. Her smile was the kind that hides sharpened teeth. Ava, she said sweetly, extending a hand. It's been ages. Has it? I said, shaking it just long enough to make her uncomfortable. Noah's discomfort, on the other hand, was impossible to miss. He kept glancing between us, sweat gathering at his temple. This is nice, Lydia said, eyes flicking toward the chandeliers. I didn't know you two were hosting things like this. Oh, we love a celebration, I said. Especially when there's so much to honor. The first hour went smoothly. Dinner arrived, conversation flowed, laughter filled the space. Noah performed like a man in control, telling stories, bragging subtly, occasionally touching Lydia's arm in ways he thought I wouldn't notice. He still believed this dinner was about his charm, not his exposure. At exactly 8:12, I excused myself and walked to the front desk. Has anyone called for Mrs. Collins? The hostess nodded. Right on time. I took the call. Speaker low. Mrs. Collins, the voice said, my friend Andrea, a CPA and the best improviser I knew. We've completed the reconciliation you requested. The transfer records confirm $42,000 went directly from your shared business account to Miss Lydia Hale. Lydia Hale. I let the name linger, loud enough for the hostess to hear, soft enough that it sounded accidental. Thank you, Andrea, I said, and hung up. When I returned, dessert had just been served. Chocolate soufflé, rich and theatrical, perfect symbolism for what came next. Noah smiled at me like he'd already won some invisible argument. Everything okay? Perfect, I said, sliding back into my seat. Actually, I have a small surprise. His colleagues perked up. A surprise? His boss chuckled. Now you've got our attention. I nodded toward the waiter, who dimmed the lights slightly. The projector screen on the far wall flickered to life. Noah frowned. What's this? Something I thought would make tonight memorable. The first slide appeared. A screenshot of a bank transfer. $42,000. Account, Lydia Hale. A murmur swept through the table. Noah stiffened. Lydia's fork slipped from her hand, clattering against the plate. I stood slowly, calm and steady. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. This dinner was meant to celebrate partnership, the kind built on trust and honesty. Unfortunately, not everyone here understands those values. Noah pushed back his chair. Ava, what are you doing? Reminding you, I said, turning toward the guests, that business accounts aren't personal ATMs. Especially when used to fund someone else's designer handbags. The next slide was a photo Lydia, smiling in front of a boutique, holding a shopping bag dated the same day as the transfer. The timestamp shone in the corner. Lydia stood abruptly. You have no right. Oh, but I do, I said smoothly. You see, when money leaves a joint business account, it leaves a trail. And when that money funds personal luxuries, it becomes evidence. Noah's boss turned to him, face pale. Is this true? No, it's not what it looks like, Noah stammered. She's twisting things. I pressed a button. The next slide appeared, an email. From Noah's account. Don't worry, baby. She'll never notice. It's just a transfer. I'll tell her it's business. Gasps filled the room. Lydia covered her mouth. Noah's voice cracked. Ava, please, not here. Why not? I asked. This is where you spent my money, isn't it? Fancy restaurants, champagne, luxury clothes. I figured it's poetic that your confession happens in one too. His boss stood. I think we've heard enough. Oh, I'm not done. I held up my phone, scrolling once. There's just one more thing. The projector changed again, a short clip of Lydia bragging in a group chat I'd been forwarded by one of her friends. Men are so easy when they think they're helping you. 42 grand and he still calls me his angel. Silence. Dead, suffocating silence. Lydia grabbed her purse and bolted. Noah looked like someone had just pulled the floor out from under him. Ava, he whispered. You've ruined me. I leaned down, close, enough for only him to hear. No, Noah. You did that yourself. I just sent the invitation. Then I straightened, smiled at the room full of stunned faces, and said softly, dinner's on him. As I walked out, my heels clicking against marble, the whispers followed like music. By morning, the story had already traveled faster than gossip ever should. La Reverie wasn't just a restaurant, it was a stage, and last night, I'd handed the world a front row seat. Everyone who mattered to Noah had been there, his boss, his clients, his peers. Everyone who'd once seen him as the charming golden boy of finance now saw him as a thief and a fool. I didn't need to post anything online. The photos and whispers did that for me. Someone at the dinner had recorded the whole thing, Lydia's face frozen mid-denial, Noah's voice breaking as his lies fell apart. By sunrise, that video had found its way through private group chats and company Slack channels. By noon, it was everywhere that mattered. At 9:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Not with an apology, those would come later, but with confirmation from our joint business manager. We've locked all shared accounts. Your husband has been removed as an authorized user. My husband. The word felt foreign now, like a bad password I'd already changed. Downstairs, the coffee brewed slow and steady. The smell filled the air, warm, grounding, the opposite of everything I felt inside. I poured a cup, sat by the window, and watched as the morning news talked about market trends, the same market Noah once claimed he could read like a story. Now, he was the story. At 10:30, a call came through. Unknown number. I let it ring twice before answering. Ava Collins speaking. A pause, then a deep sigh. Ava, it's Martin. His boss. Oh, I said, taking a slow sip of coffee. Good morning, Martin. How's your day going? Well, it was going better before last night. He sounded exhausted, older than I remembered. Listen, I don't know what to say. You could have come to me privately. I could have, I agreed. But then he would have said it was all a misunderstanding, and you would have believed him. You always did. He hesitated. We've terminated him, effective immediately. Lydia too. The board's furious. There's talk of legal action, audits. I trust you'll find what you're looking for, I interrupted gently. Everything you need's already documented in the drive I shared last week. A long silence. Then, quieter, you're good, Ava. Scary good. Thank you, I said. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me after I destroyed a man's career. He actually laughed once, awkwardly. You know, I think you did us a favor. Noah was talented, sure, but he's been slipping for months. That woman, she was poison. I'm sure she was. I said softly. But he chose the dose. After hanging up, I turned off my phone. Let the silence wrap around me like armor. For the first time in months, I felt no buzzing tension in my chest, no dread in my stomach. Just space. By noon, the doorbell rang. I didn't need to check to know who it was. Noah stood there, looking like a man half erased. The tailored suits were gone. He wore jeans and a wrinkled shirt, eyes bloodshot, jaw unshaven. He looked older, smaller, hollowed out by his own arrogance. Ava, he started, but I held up a hand. Don't. You've said enough words for one lifetime. He stepped forward. I just need to explain. There's nothing left to explain. The dinner was the explanation. He blinked. You planned that whole thing? Every second. His mouth opened, then closed again. You humiliated me. I tilted my head. No, Noah. You humiliated yourself. I just provided lighting and an audience. He exhaled shakily. You've ruined my life. I stood still, calm, unbothered. You stole from mine first. He rubbed his temples, voice breaking. Lydia's gone. She packed up this morning. Said she's moving to L.A. Her words were, I don't date men who get caught. That almost made me smile. Almost. How poetic, I said. Noah's eyes flicked up to mine. Do you feel better now? I considered the question carefully. Not better. I said finally. Just done. He stepped closer, desperation creeping in. Ava, we can fix this. I'll pay you back. I'll go to therapy. You'll leave. I said, calm but final. You'll pack what's yours and go before I make the police report official. His expression hardened. You wouldn't. I would. He stared at me for a long moment, then something in him cracked. He turned toward the stairs without another word. His footsteps were heavy, uneven, like a man climbing toward his own ending. While he packed, I sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling through emails, messages from women I didn't even know, wives, girlfriends, co-workers flooding my inbox with stories of their own betrayals. You gave me courage. You made me realize I wasn't crazy. You did what I wish I could. It hit me then. The dinner wasn't just revenge. It was revelation. Every woman in that room, every person who'd watched the video, had seen something rare. A woman reclaiming control without rage, without violence, without apology. When Noah came back down, suitcase in hand, he paused at the door. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Try Lydia's. Or maybe a mirror. He left without another word. The sound of the door closing was softer than I expected, almost gentle. Like the end of a song that had played too long. That afternoon, I opened the last account he'd touched, closed it, and moved the remaining balance into a new one under my name only. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the dispassion principle. By evening, Lydia's name was trending not as a glamorous ex but as the other woman who got exposed at La Reverie. Screenshots from the video flooded social media. Memes, jokes, 42,000 reasons to keep receipts. Dinner's on him. She ordered soufflé and got served instead. I didn't post a word. Didn't like. Didn't comment. Just watched. The next day, my lawyer, Victoria, called. "You made quite the impression," she said. "He's agreed to a quiet settlement. 50,000, immediate transfer, and full relinquishment of all joint assets. No contest. 50. I said, eyebrow raised. "Guilt tax," she said dryly. "Consider it a tip for the entertainment." I smiled. "Send him my thanks." Later that night, I walked into my living room clean, silent, and mine. The scent of candles replaced the cologne he used to wear. I sat on the couch with a glass of wine, staring at the flicker of light against the walls. I thought I'd feel lonely, but what I felt was something else entirely. Peace. The kind that doesn't need company to exist. Outside, the city hummed with life. Somewhere out there, Noah was probably staring at the ruins of his old life, realizing he'd traded gold for glass. And Lydia, she'd moved on, of course, chasing her next story, her next victim. But me? I'd stopped chasing anything. Because I already had everything that mattered back: my self-respect, my silence, and my freedom. 3 months after the dinner, I stopped dreaming about it. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I didn't need to remember anymore. Revenge has a half-life: it burns bright, then fades, leaving space for something else to grow. Peace, purpose, maybe even a little joy. The scandal had become office legend by then. The La Reverie dinner was whispered about in hushed tones during board meetings, quoted in HR workshops as an example of boundaries and consequences. My name was never mentioned publicly, but people knew. The women especially. I'd see them at events, in hallways, at coffee shops, the quiet nods, the half smiles. They didn't need to say it. I understood. By February, my business, the one Noah had tried to drain, had doubled in size. Word had spread about my precision, my professionalism, my refusal to bend. Clients wanted the woman who exposed fraud at dinner parties and still looked composed while doing it. They called it confidence. I called it survival. One morning, I got an unexpected email from Forbes Women. "We're doing a feature on female entrepreneurs who turned personal betrayal into professional triumph. Would you consider being interviewed?" I stared at the message for a long moment, smiling. There was irony in it that the same woman once dismissed as too trusting was now being celebrated for her strength. I said yes, not because I needed the spotlight but because the story wasn't just mine anymore. During the interview, the reporter asked, "If you could go back to that night, before you saw the missing $42,000, would you change anything?" I thought about it carefully. The candles, the cold coffee, the sharp ache in my stomach when I saw Lydia's name. "No," I said. "I'd still find out. I'd still expose it. The only difference is, I wouldn't hesitate next time." When the article came out, the headline made me laugh. She lost $42,000, then gained her freedom. That weekend, I took myself to dinner at La Reverie. Same table, same seat. The maitre d' recognized me immediately and smiled politely, that unspoken acknowledgement that he knew exactly who I was. "Just one tonight?" he asked. "Just me," I said. He poured champagne without asking. "On the house," he said quietly. The first sip tasted like closure, crisp, clean, not sweet but satisfying. The restaurant hummed around me, full of laughter and conversation. But none of it touched me. I was untouchable now. Halfway through dinner, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Ava?" The voice was familiar. Raw. "Noah." He sounded hesitant, smaller than ever. "I heard about the article. Congratulations." "Thank you. I'm in a better place now. Therapy. New job. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry." For a moment, I said nothing. The background noise of his call told me enough: the echo of a small apartment, The hum of a fridge that never quite shuts up. His new world. Noah, I said finally, I hope you stay in therapy. I hope you become better. But your apology isn't a key. It doesn't open any doors back to me. He exhaled softly. I know. I just wanted to hear your voice once. Well, I said gently, now you have. And I ended the call. That night, after dinner, I walked through the city alone. The air was cool, the sky soft and violet. People hurried past, couples laughing, cabs honking the usual rhythm of life. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was watching from behind glass. I was part of it, alive, unafraid, unowned. The next morning, I visited my mother. She was in the garden, pruning roses like she always did when she wanted to talk without saying it. You look different, she said. I feel different. Good. I was worried for a while. I was too, I admitted. She smiled, handing me a rose. You know, your father used to say some storms are worth standing in. Because they wash away everything that shouldn't have been there. I held the rose carefully. He was right. After that day, I stopped calling it revenge. Revenge was about him. This was about me. About building a life that didn't need validation or permission. By spring, I'd launched a new branch of my firm, one that trained women in financial independence, contract literacy, and self-protection. We called it The Vault. It wasn't flashy, but it was powerful. Dozens of women signed up. I taught them how to read the fine print, track expenses, recognize manipulation disguised as love. One of the first slides I showed in the workshop read, "Trust is beautiful, but verification is power." At the end of every session, someone would ask about my story. I never mentioned names, never the restaurant or the ex. I just said, once upon a time, I forgot my worth. Now I teach women never to do that. In May, The Vault was featured in a local paper. That same week, I received an anonymous envelope at my office. No note, no return address. Inside was a check for $42,000. I didn't cash it. I framed it. 6 months later, life looked nothing like it used to. My mornings started with peace instead of suspicion. My nights ended with gratitude instead of exhaustion. Sometimes I'd sit at my kitchen table, the one where I'd once discovered the betrayal, and laugh softly at the irony. The same spot that broke me had also rebuilt me. The last loose thread was Lydia. I hadn't thought about her in months, but one afternoon I saw her name in a headline, former marketing executive charged in credit fraud investigation. I stared at the photo for a long time. The glamorous confidence was gone, replaced by something brittle and desperate. For a brief moment, I felt pity. Then I turned the page. That night, I poured a glass of wine and stood by the window, watching the city lights blink against the horizon. Everything shimmered not like wealth, but like peace. There's something poetic about the moment you realize you don't need revenge anymore. When the silence that once scared you becomes the proof that you survived. My phone buzzed a message from one of my workshop graduates. I caught my fiancé moving my savings. I confronted him. I left. Thank you for giving me the courage. I smiled. That was it. The real revenge. Not the dinner. Not the humiliation. The legacy. Before bed, I opened my journal, the one I'd started after the dinner, filled with plans, reflections, small victories. On the last page, I wrote a single sentence. He stole $42,000, but I got my life back and I'm not returning it. Then I closed it, turned off the light, and fell asleep without a single nightmare. When dawn came, the light spilling across my room felt like a beginning, not an ending. Because it was.